March 7th, 2026. My first time on the big stage to battle for the qualification to go to the European Championships. How did I perform? What was my thought process during every round? What's coming next? What are my plans? And so much more coming in this video. Welcome to Road to Elite Armwrestling, Episode 3. So, the competition is happening tomorrow. In like 10 minutes, we're gonna drive all the way to Slovakia, and at 8 AM, Visegrad Grand Prix is gonna start. I'm super nervous, but I guess that just shows that this means something to me, and hopefully I'll score a medal. That's my goal, to get the top 3 at least on one arm. So me and the boys set out from Prague at around 8 PM. And after grueling 6 hours at 2 AM, we are finally there in Dolní Kubín. First up, when we arrived, we didn't actually have the correct address. So some man started flashing a flashlight at us, screaming that he's gonna call the police. Then we finally found the correct apartment and I went to sleep. The competition was starting at 10. And at already 6:30, I was awake, completely, horribly nervous. I also needed to shit, because I had like 1500 calories of McDonald's the night before. Right around that time I also panicked that I lost my GoPro, but the thing is the GoPro never left my house. At 9 all the other boys woke up as well, and at 10 AM the competition was about to start. I competed in the under 23 70 kilo category. Weighing 65, it was a bit of a shame that I was underweight, but hey, you have to battle through adversity. Before the first round, the emotions in my mind, they started building. I felt fear, I felt anger. This kept building for like hour or hour and a half. And then finally, my name was called up. First up was my party arm, the left. I stepped up to the table, gripped my opponent, and immediately absolutely hated what I felt in my hand. My whole preparation was based around that I'm gonna be able to set a hook. But already off the go, outside of the straps, I knew that there was absolutely no way I'm doing that. I'm gonna get cracked if I try. I barely managed to get the slip, an underhand one, and then we go to the straps. I realized that I cannot fight him inside, so I do something in retrospect, I think quite stupid. I set up for a low hand. From my experience, when I go top roll, I know that my pronator is at its strongest when my riser is down, which is a horrible connection. But that was the only thought process in my mind at that point. So I dump my riser, I go up as high as possible, and off the go, I stopped the hit. And at that moment, all the emotions just let out from me. I'm like, okay, I'm in this match, and I just start screaming like an absolute monkey. So for a few seconds we were kind of stuck in the center. When I drive to the side, my wrist cracks even more, but I know that if I just can keep my pronator, I'm gonna be fine. Eventually he elbow fouls, and on the restart I'm thinking, okay, I can do this, but he gets better containment on me, and eventually my pronator goes down and I cannot do anything. So first loss on the left, but from that moment on my stress was way lower than before. I knew that I can be competitive, I'm gonna do okay at least. I just must think better, I cannot do stupid technical mistakes. The second round was a gyros match against one of the boys. After the first round I realized that my wrist on the left at least was hella floppy, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to set the hook, but I still tried anyways. Maybe I'm gonna be able to. Problem is, he's got like the largest hand in the category, so off the go, of course, my hand absolutely flops. But I also knew that they can get my wrist, but if they do not get on my pronator, then I can still win that match. So off the go, I tried hooking, I got extended, but I stayed close to my shoulder, my arm angle stayed good, and he stretched himself out, and then I just went for a toe roll with my pronator intact. Thankfully, got the pin. Barely alive, and it's 1-1. The third round I was going against a Slovak puller, and off the go I finally managed to set the hook, first opponent, and immediately I knew I was in a good spot. It felt very comfortable. I managed to bump hip of the center, and an elbow foul occurred. On the restart, I again was preparing to set the hook. However, I think he switched up techniques and he went outside, and my wrist again, my hella floppy wrist on the left, cracked damn hard. That was a pretty bad result on the left, 7th out of 12, but hey, it's the first competition. Better try and fail than not attempt at all. I was alright with it because I knew that my best was yet to come on the right. So it's time for the business on the right. First round I went against an Hungarian puller, and again, the first time I felt like I was getting absolutely scammed on the grip. I had horrible connection, the same thing that happened to me on the left in the first round. But thankfully the referees actually had to help me in this one, and in the end I actually think it was quite good for me, and over the go I completely exploded to the side and I get a quick flash pin. Second round, once again against one of the boys in the club, Mikola Tsusman. I knew that I cannot overpower him, or I shouldn't at least be trying, if it's not fighting for the medals. So I let him pass and I was on my one life. And third round, I go up against Vitek once again. And I'm like, oh my god, why him of all people? On the left, we all saw how it went, but my right is not my left. I also learned from my mistake of going low hand. This time I kept my riser high. Honestly, I was kind of unsure of where to go. You can see my leg is kind of flopping between side and the back, and then the classic position. Eventually I settled into the most general foot placement, and off the go I hit quickly to the side, and it was like a multiple time hit. I kept calculating, like first hit, wrist is still fine. Go again, wrist is still fine, until I got all the way to the pin pad, thankfully. And now in the fourth round, I was about to go for the fourth position. And I knew that the puller I was going against was gonna be an absolutely difficult experience. It was gonna be a battle. He won on the left later, and on the right I was expecting no less. Outside of the straps, I'm thinking like the only way I can efficiently get this into the straps is if I just commit the shoulder and try to flop. Like, thankfully I managed that, and he also gets an elbow foul. So we go to the straps and I just brace myself for the biggest impact and ready go, and I actually managed to hold him off barely. I know I have a very strong defensive hook, and thankfully I capped successfully, and then from then on it was an absolute war. He locked in a very efficient king's move, and I was just left trying to fight through that. I was at 100% maximum output until I felt something crack once again in my inner elbow. But I kept fighting, I kept pushing on. When he hit, I got his pronator and I stretched him out. When I hit, he got on my wrist. So it was an absolute stalemate. And then, thankfully, that was absolute luck on my side. He elbow fouled again, and I got a win on 2 fouls. If that didn't happen, he would have either tired me out or I would have gone for the flop and maybe got him, maybe not. Who knows how it would have went. However, I was super thankful and happy that I was moving on and that I managed to match such a beast. 5th round, that's when it got serious, because that was a fight for the medals, and the one who gets the medal position gets to qualify for the European Championship. Or it was one of the main factors that were needed. A placement in an international competition in a top 3. I feel that my farm is completely cooked from the last round. It's absolutely overpumped. I knew that something happened in that elbow. At that time I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew it wasn't great. But I'm like, I'm here to fucking fight. Let's just see what the fuck happens. Again, I was setting up for that flop slip that worked for me last time. I was like, I'm just gonna throw it once again. Hopefully it'll work. But my opponent had a super strong internal rotator. He was a strong hook puller. He had a war with Tsusman before, who was very likely the strongest 65 kilo puller in our club. Off the go, I flopped my wrist, of course, but he completely won the side. When my wrist was back, there was no way I could have fought him, and he got a top 3. And that's where my journey ended. 4th out of 13 on the right arm. It would have definitely been more interesting if I tried to force it actually in a hook in the last round, because I think I would have, or we both would have liked to be there. Then who knows what would have happened, but still I'm super happy about the result for my first competition. I think it's a very good result, and now I know exactly what I need to work on, and that's exactly what I'm gonna talk about next. Because the experience I got from a competition compared to normal table time, it's incomparable. It gives you so much more insight because everyone is trying their hardest. Ready, go, you can feel exactly what the problem is. On table time, you know, you can usually get in your positions if you want to, because your opponent isn't trying as hard. In a proper competition, everyone is trying to get a piece of everything, find your weakness, and they will expose it. So, the first lesson learned is that I gotta fight more in the setup. At some points, I wasn't fighting well enough, and I knew that it was definitely not great for me and that I could have gotten more out of it. But that's more of a detail. What's more important is the weaknesses I found in my game and the strengths I need to gain now. So first up, and most importantly, it's my center table side pressure and my internal rotator. I have come to the conclusion that the side pressure lift I did in my second episode, and also it's on my Instagram, where I did like 55 kilos, is pretty much, it's not completely useless, but it's only efficient in a defensive position. But I want to be able to start dominantly. I want to start on my side, because if I start on the defensive, then I mean, what's that useful for, right? I already have to drag it out from a compromised position. And that cannot work against a quick opponent or a stronger opponent. So this lift replicates being on the defensive, having my arm outside of the shoulder, and it doesn't exactly replicate the position of me starting in a match in the center. From now on, I'm upgrading my equipment. I'm getting a proper arm wrestling table, getting a good pulley system, and my side pressure is gonna be trained first up with my wrist. I am gonna have to engage my wrist, because before I used to put it down, completely isolating my side, but I cannot go to the side if I do not have my wrist, or maybe on the left, but it's definitely not the most efficient position. Ready, go, right from the center, I'm gonna drive to the side. The first variant is gonna be with my full body, and the second variant is gonna be purely on the internal rotator. So I gain dominance right off the go. That way it will enable me to also learn to better commit my shoulder, because for such a long time I was pulling a lot on my bicep, and that's not efficient at all. I need to use as much structure as I have. Moving on, I've realized that the reason my top roll is weak isn't because I would have like a weak pronator or a weak riser or a weak back pressure. All my lifts for my weight category, I would say, are quite decent. I have around, if I go completely proper form, around a 42 maybe kilo back pressure. I have around a 32 kilo riser and around a 35 to 40 kilo pronator. I did like 40 kilos with a bit worse form, so I was like 38 maybe. And that's for 65 kilo category. But when I try to use this at a table, it doesn't work together. It's not a chain. Either I can efficiently go with pure back pressure, but my riser just dies, and we could have seen that. If I try to go with a posting top row, which I have to because I have a forearm which is shorter than most people, I have to start in a posting top row position, dominant from the start, and I immediately have to go back, it's a problem for me. For some reason, my riser doesn't work together with my back pressure. I can only use one. If I try to rise, my back pressure, it just, for some reason, it doesn't work. I am unable to pull like through this position. And I think that connects to the my arm angle, because my arm angle gets way too stretched open. My stronger position is beyond 90 degrees. And that's because the first about a year of arm wrestling training I did when I first started, I did the Devon Larrett pronation lifts. And Devon's got a huge forearm, and he is used to going outside of his shoulder, committing to an open top or a king's move. And I cannot afford that. I, with a short forearm, have to be a posting top roller, which means I also need to close my bicep angle. So due to that, I'm getting the table, I'm getting the pulley, and I'm really gonna work on that mind-muscle connection to transfer everything to the table as efficiently as possible, and on the table I'm gonna practice to connect this chain. So I have a very efficient top row of the start, or at least I can drag them back efficiently, and then maybe when my pronator cracks eventually, I'm still in a dominant internal rotator position. And the pronator is like the alpha omega. You need to have a pronator in a hook, you need to have a pronator in a top row, it doesn't matter. It's always more efficient to have your pronator intact unless you are getting flopped. So the main point I would say is that I have to train as close as to a competition environment as I can. So this is the game plan for now. In 2 weeks I'm gonna be going to the national championships. Until that, I hope my elbow heals. Right now it's feeling that there is some pain, but it's definitely not as bad as I thought previously. It seems like it'll be alright. After that, I'm gonna start absolutely grinding, connecting everything, and hopefully next year I'm gonna be in an amazing form. With willpower and determination, I will succeed. And that's everything from me for today. I hope you got some value from this video. It's interesting to be documenting this process, really showing how everything works and how I think. And that's everything from me for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.